events. And now I'm going to invite some of the speakers to come down, and we're going to have a panel on their top tips for a career in engineering. So if the people I've spoken to would like to come out. Yeah, Lewis, that's you.
Yeah. So bring to the front.
Yeah, bring to the front. Yeah, that's you. Sorry, Stephen, as well, yeah. There we go. There's our program for the next couple of months. Okay. So we'll spend about 15 minutes just asking the panel what their top tips for a career in engineering are, and then we'll have 15 minutes on questions from you guys. Ask the panel on one of them with the appropriate experience to be able to answer that question. So, Kathleen, have you got a top tip for a career in engineering?
Never stop asking questions. Never stop questioning anything that's in front of you. If you don't understand something, ask the question why. I recently, a couple of years ago, changed my career from building to water, and I literally spent the first 6 months sounding like a 2-year-old. It was all, wow, what's that? What does that do? And actually it was quite surprising that not everybody could answer the question who had been in their industry for quite a while. So never stop asking those questions.
Stephen?
So I think I'd say try and get a broad understanding, broad experience, try different things. Even if you're quite interested in one niche, try and understand the things around it, how does it interact. So probably a broad understanding is what I go for.
Lewis?
I would say self-motivation will be quite important for you. So if you choose a topic which interests you, and then naturally you can develop your knowledge in that field, and you can develop your knowledge by going to libraries and like your university library, go on the internet, and most importantly join the relevant engineering institutes, because all these institutes offer free technical presentations, technical tours and factories and life skills workshops, and these will help you develop your knowledge in your interested area, and allow you to network with other people and exchange ideas, and improve your communication skills, and even inspire you to develop new ideas. So,
John?
Yeah, I'd like to give you my top tip in 3 ways, really. First of all, thinking about it from a global perspective. Engineers are vital to the planet, to looking after the planet. You know, we're all conscious these days of how limited the Earth's resources are, and engineers have got a vital part to play in that, whether it be fuel consumption, whether it be emissions, in whatever area. Engineers have a vital part to play in looking after the environment and the planet. And then from a national perspective, you know, it's engineers who generate the national wealth. Bankers, they look after it. Accountants, they keep tabs on it and count it. But it's engineers who generate the national wealth. So as an engineer, you can be part of that very vital process. But then bringing it right down to a personal level, and you've seen some great and exciting things today, aspects of engineering. Alan was talking about great structures and the London Eye and all the things he's been involved in. And there are great things, whatever branch of engineering you go into, there are great things to be done. It's a fantastic career, and it's very creative. And I think, you know, when you see something that you've designed come to fruition, there's a huge satisfaction in that, and that's enough, I think, to motivate anyone to want to be an engineer. So, you know, whether you're considering a career in engineering, whether you're early in that career, then I urge you to go forward for it, because it's a fantastic place to be.
Alan?
Not quite sure I agree with you that bankers look after our money.
Well, they're supposed to.
I agree with you that we create it. I think I'd say to people that you obviously did all the fantastic projects today, but don't assume that when you start off in life, you're going to be working on those. You all have to learn your craft. I started off in a very small engineering firm. First 20 years of my life, all I did was design what you might think of routine structures and things like that. One of the great pleasures of engineering is that, what I find, you don't get bored every day. There's always something to do. There's always something different. There's always a challenge. But you have to learn your craft. You don't start off with your careers thinking you're going to work for the best firms in the world or things like that. It doesn't really matter where you start work. What you should do is get a job, get experience, and continue on the process of learning. And what you've said over there was absolutely right. Your future is in your hands. Take the initiative on that. Be a member of an institution. Be nosy. Try and learn as much as you can. Because the more you learn, the more competent you are at it, the more job satisfaction you'll get. And the other thing I'd ask you is, I've done a number of careers things, is don't ask how much money you're going to earn. Well, at least not to start with. Take a job that gives you personal satisfaction. The money will come. You get paid for something. But you have to spend your life working, doing something. Do something that gives you personal satisfaction.
John?
I've not had the opportunity, I apologise, I've been here only a few minutes, but I watched the Bloodhound Speak Stand Back End. I was inspired by that. I think what you need to do is remember why you want to be engineer. So whichever field you're in, just remember and always keep that in mind. But I would encourage people to be flexible. I left school knowing I wanted to play with electricity, and I've been lucky enough to be in the electrical industry, working for Electricity North West all my working life. But I started as an apprentice. Then developed my interest and then worked on, studied on, and I've gained a lot of experience across the industry. But there's many aspects of engineering in whichever branch or field you decide to go in. So being flexible and starting off knowing that you want to do something, but there are many and varied routes within that field. Commissioning engineers, design engineers, operational engineers, all work within the electricity industry. And my colleague next door has just said, doesn't matter where you start, in the electricity industry there are many in the supply chain that would need to develop good engineering skills, switchgear developers, designers. So wherever you want to go, just be flexible and again, I'd like to emphasise, I've enjoyed myself all my career and I think that is important, so pick something that you enjoy.
Dan?
For me, I've been in the industry now for 5 years since coming out of university, so it wasn't that long ago I was in your seat. The key thing is to take ownership. There are so many toolkits available to you, and that comes from the local institutions that's already been mentioned, the IET, the IET, chemicals, aerospace. They all kind of follow the same guidelines as to how you can improve as an engineer. And they follow the UK standard, which basically outlines all the things that you need to have to be a well-balanced engineer. It's identifying how to deepen your knowledge of whatever technical subject that you're in, how to broaden your knowledge, and understanding the kind of soft skills that go around the role that you're going into. It's being aware of programs, being aware of cost, of safety. At university level, be it bachelor's or master's, I think you can be quite detailed into your discipline that you're studying. It's that wider range of skills that you need to learn. And like I said, there's so many toolkits available for you to learn those skills, to develop them, and to use SWOT analysis to keep going back to them, making sure that you're constantly pushing yourself and ultimately to take ownership of what you're doing.
Right, so as you can see, we've got quite a broad range of experience here. So really it's over to you guys. Use the panel to ask them questions. Yeah, ask them any question about a career in engineering. Really, it's over to you guys. So, are there any questions for the panel? Right, I'll start off then. If if you could go back, this is to the panel as a whole really, is there anything you'd do differently at the early stages of your career? Were there any particular mistakes that you made or something, anything that you wish that you'd done as you left university or even before then?
An engineer has never made a mistake, never made anything. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's part of the experience of learning. I know you didn't do it like that, but it's part of the experience of learning.
I would agree with Alan. Mistake isn't the problem, it's not learning from it. And I think I honestly, my career's had its ups and its downs. But I wouldn't necessarily say there'd be anything I'd go back and change. Other than maybe just being a bit more vocal if I found myself in situations that I was uncomfortable with in terms of stress, because that can often be an issue that doesn't get talked about very much, but a lot of people do suffer with. I think there's more recognition of it now. But certainly in the past, in my experience, it was something that was just, suck it up and get on with it. So probably that's not necessarily an engineering issue, it's more of a how to sort of like get the old work-life balance going.
West.
Is there, again to the panel as a whole, is there any project or anything that in engineering that you wish you could have worked on? Is there anything that, any opportunities that maybe passed you by or you couldn't take?
I regret I'm too old. I've worked on the previous generation, and it's a fascinating technology and has fascinating challenges for civil and structural engineers and safety engineers. There isn't, to my mind, any option but to have a new generation of nuclear staff plant. And I would like to work on it, but I'm too old to do that now. Someone else has to take that on.
Yeah, any more? Abdi?
What would you say is or has been the most challenging engineering problem you faced?
So I'll jump in. So maybe not a technical one, but from my point of view, dealing with people, like stakeholder management side of projects is, from what I've found, can be the most challenging. As engineers, we can come up with great solutions, but then you've got to have all your stakeholders actually understand why it's solving the problems that they might not fully understand themselves. So actually, although as engineers we can come up with brilliant things, actually making other people understand them and having the softer skills, I think, is something that I've had to learn. That might not have been quite what you're going for, but...
The first time we tried to lift the London Eye, there were 22 television cameras watching from around the world, and with basketball cables. The only time I've made news at 10. I don't want to do it again. But everyone's forgotten that now.
Any more? Yeah.
We understand that networking is a really big part of engineering, and as a emerging engineer who's about to look for jobs and things like that, what would you suggest is a good way to get into networking? As in, you've already spoken about getting in contact with institutions and things like that. There's so much information out there. I think it's a bit daunting for a lot of people. We don't know where to start. What would be a good place to really get it?
Dive in anywhere. There's not going to be one right place to start. Just, find one that interests you, or the first one that comes up on Google, be it IMEC, YRP, IET, and just find an event that looks vaguely interesting. You should go along and just start talking to people. I think that's the only way. Just dive in. So.
I think to add to that, the next step would be then to come to the event and help out. And once you get to know the relevant people in the committee, volunteer to help out in events, and you'll learn new skills and develop your confidence.
Lots of the institutions have graduate students or young professional groups, and they will have events dedicated to networking and things like that. So again, pick the one that's most appropriate to what you want to do, and then just go for it.
I think I just echo those remarks really. I mean, all the institutions are looking for volunteers, are eager to enlist the help of volunteers. But really, the main benefit of that is to the volunteer who's getting involved, and that involvement and networking, as you say, and as others have said, really just choose the institution, or maybe more than one institution, because lots of people will be a member of two institutions, perhaps, that are relevant to the career path you want to pursue. So that's the key to it, really. I think it's people. The computer screen is great, Google is great, but people can help point you in the right direction and pass on that enthusiasm that they have for the career.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that.
Would you say that a calculate everything first, then act approach is replacing a more trial and error approach? And if so, what would you suggest to someone like me who much prefers, call it old-fashioned, just trial and error, experiment, see what happens approach?
It depends what you're doing, I'll be honest. I can imagine with Bloodhound you probably want to make sure you've got all your calculations right. I think in some parts of the industry the trial and error approach is appropriate, completely appropriate. In others it's not. So it would entirely depend where, what it was you were doing.
That's the grouse structural engineers have with mechanical engineers. We can't trial and error a bridge. It either works the first time or it doesn't. Whereas you guys, it doesn't work well, another go, do a prototype. But it's a serious problem, and it's one of the great innovations of the 19th century in the change in believing and understanding. If you understand how engineering works, how structures work, we're spending a huge amount of money, of the public's money, on the rail system and all sorts of things. And to some extent, you can trial and error if you've got mass production, but huge amounts of it, we've got to really get it right first time. And that's where engineering knowledge and the ability to calculate and predict what's going to happen, and some of that comes from experience and learning what's gone wrong before, is so important. So it's not a really facetious remark to say, you design the Forth Road Bridge, you've got one chance.
Let me give you a quotation from someone that sticks in my mind. It was a gentleman who was presenting on running a racing car on waste chip fat, and the way that he was using that to demonstrate renewable fuels. And in the course of his presentation, he said, engineering is about increasing the probability of achieving the intended result. And that stuck with me, that. It's about increasing the probability of achieving the intended result. You don't really do that through trial and error. You do that through some calculation, then some trials, then back to the drawing board and some more trials. And I think it's an iterative process to get to the point you're trying to achieve, and that's what engineering is about.
And if things don't go quite right, that's where you can actually use your engineering skills, because it's about problem solving. So you go out as best you can to get a solution, get the job right first time, but it's not always going to happen. And in development, and as you're going with the best intentions, you're going to have to find a way out of a problem, and that's engineering.
Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, Isan.
How much of your degree do you use on a day-to-day basis, would you say?
Entirely depends.
Yeah, what degree?
When I started as a site engineer, I wasn't using very much. In fact, I was probably using more A-level on GCSE maths, because we were doing setting out and measuring and things like that. I would probably say over the course of my career, I've probably used about half of it, because I went into contracting, so was doing a different part of engineering. But my degree covered lots of different subjects. So did wastewater engineering, did hydraulics, did geology. So I would say that there's certain bits that I've never used because I've never needed to.
So I guess I'd probably be similar, maybe even a bit less than 50%, but only in the detailed sense. But actually having an understanding and actually the way it teaches you to think when you go into a university and approach problem solving, which is actually probably the more important thing you take away, rather than the hard knowledge of this calculation for this scenario. So for me, the biggest thing I took from uni was how to approach problems and how to deal with problems and how to look at a project and a problem. And then some of the actual technical stuff I use regularly, but still having an appreciation of all the other bits that we covered is still very useful.
For myself, I'd say it's between 30 to 50%. Perhaps on the very heavy theory side, I didn't really have to apply in the workplace, but certainly my final year of my degree, we had to do a final year project, and this was very vital for myself in preparation for industry, because it taught me the project management side of engineering, the problem solving, the organisational side for your weekly progress meetings, and your team working and communication side. So I'd say final year is probably the best preparation for you for work if you're doing a kind of team project or even an individual project. It puts you in that sort of engineering world.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you think the universities are preparing the new graduates with new standards, or preparing enough for this new engineering are in the world that are evolving that much that the universities are keeping up with this new technology? Do you think that the universities are keeping up with this new technology, basically?
Probably. So it probably depends on the university. I mean, but a lot of universities have brilliant research centres that are driving forward innovation. So I think so. I mean, you mentioned standards, and in terms of whether they're teaching the latest, most relevant standard, not sure. But actually, that's one of the things where you don't have to know a standard. You just have to know how to use a standard. And so I think the application is all relevant. And I suspect most universities are reasonably cutting edge with technology, I would have thought. That's a fairly personal opinion.
I think some of the things you learn at university are the sort of fundamentals, and you will learn different things when you go out into the world of work. It's similar to when you're doing your basic maths at A level, so it's so that you can then use it to do other things. So they may not be giving you the most current, up-to-date BIM modelling that's available out there, but then probably most companies don't have that either. But they'll give you an understanding of how to use it when you go out there. And as we mentioned when we were talking, the industry changes so much that you're going to be continually learning when you're working anyway. So the fact that your university may not have had the most up-to-date information doesn't necessarily put you at a loss when you go into the world of work, because you'll have so much you'll have to learn just through going to university to work anyway.
One more question? Anyone? Yeah, yourself again.
You said there was a mass shortage per annum of competent, qualified engineers. In short, how do you solve that?
More people like you to join our company.
Can I just make a comment on that?
Yeah, so go ahead.
We're talking about this massive shortage of engineers. What we need to do now is, I feel passionate about, and a lot of people on the Brotherhood team feel passionate about as well, is we've had a little bit of a lull. We had a lull where we had sort of no apprenticeships, all that sort of lot, and we lost all that experience. Now sometimes like a rose bush, we've got to cut back a little bit to make sure that we can get some new shoots. We need to invest in the younger element of people now, so that in 5 and 8 years' time, that they have got the right inspiration to look at these career pathways into engineering that we can. So it's about investing in our future now, and that's where we're going to get the engineers from the future from, I think.
I'd echo that. I mean, I'm probably the oldest person on the panel, and I've been working for 50 years. And throughout that whole period, I mean, all you young people are interested in career, jobs, redundancy, all this sort of difficult thing we face in the world. Throughout my entire life, There's always been a shortage of people who are technically able. There's always been a shortage of engineers. And there's been a few bumps along the way. And this last 10 years, it's been very difficult for our country. And we are now going to face a legacy, because it's impossible to provide 10 years of people with 10 years experience. It's impossible. You can get another pile of people into the profession, but you cannot acquire 10 years experience just like that. So this last recession, this difficult problem throughout the world, is going to cause us all immense problems. And I don't know how we're going to overcome that. But it's certainly true that we have to continually look to the future, because there's been a demand for people to build things and make the world better since ever. And that's not going to stop. Other professions will be overcome, they'll change, computers will change things, certain jobs will go out of fashion, certain jobs will be redundant, but I don't believe there's any way that the things that we do collectively will ever go down that route. No computer is going to replace you. It's going to help you work better, it's going to make you more efficient, it's not going to replace you.
I would anyway echo what you were saying about going into schools. That's all you can do. You just got to get in there and inspire, and attempt to inspire. A lot of the institutions are involved. It's certainly in this part of the world, the STEM ambassadors, which Museum of Science and Industry have managed. So go out there and you just explain what you do and try to get people interested. Try to find the most interesting and innovative way to talk about, engineering. Things like the challenges that IMECs do with the cars, and showing children how to do a computer bridge that they want to crash. They find that fascinating. Then you can explain to them, this is actually what you need to do.
They love it as well, by the way. They soak it up like sponges. You take them, you go out to a school and you give them sort of like a box of Connects or something to build, or even some straws to build bridges out of. Anything you like, doesn't really matter. If you go into those schools and give them something to do with their hands and deliver it in such a way that it's fun for them to, they'll absolutely love it all day long. I mean, that's what I do. I could go back into industry. My industry is marine engineering, and there's a massive demand for marine engineers at the moment. Can't get enough. I could work, but I've worked enough offshore. I've been away from home long enough. But I do love working with kids. You get a fantastic reward when you go into a school. You see a young girl or a young boy or whatever, and you give them that eureka moment. You see that, go, I get that now. That's the reward for the whole day's work that you put in. And once you've got that, it's a bit like a drug, because once you've seen that, you want to go do it again and again and again and again. And that's what got me into Bloodhound, to be honest. I started working with kids with Bloodhound, seeing them having a lot of fun, and you'll get a lot out of it yourself. It'll be a lot of CPD for yourselves as well. And once you can demonstrate to an employer that you can contact and talk to people on different levels, then that also ticks big boxes for them as well.
And also echo what Catherine said. Believe me, there's absolutely no limit to what women cannot do in engineering. When I was at university, there were 125 people on our course, 124 men and 1 girl. She thought she was in paradise. But that was the way the world was now. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever why there shouldn't be. Women cannot be exactly the same as men. There's absolutely no reason. And that, fortunately, that perception has changed. It's not changed enough.
I'd say congratulations to Nick for putting this event together today.
Oh. Just think about that for a moment. Think what it looks like on your CV when you're going for a job. If you say you've taken these initiatives, you've done this, you've been a member of this, think what it looks like on this CV. So that's another reason for you being active. Take your career in all hands and do something, because it will help you, it will improve your self-confidence, it will help you get a job and a career.
Well, let's have more events like this, that inspires young people early in the career to pursue that engineering career or to go into an engineering career. And well done to you all for turning up on a Saturday and being here all day.
Join the MAE, there's application packs outside.
Right, so if you just thank the panel. And I was going to do that bit, but John's kind of done it for me. So thank you, John. All that is left to say really is thank you for coming. I hope you've been inspired. I hope you've learned something. But most of all, I hope you've enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I will be sending out another survey. The reason is this is the first one of these we've ever done. We want to know whether it's worth running. Again, we want to know whether you got any value out of it, and particularly what you do differently. Give us that feedback. You've had a wide range of opportunities presented to you. My advice is go out there and get involved. And if you want to get involved in planning something like this, if we do run it again next year, just give us an email and take part in the process. We'd be more than happy to have you. So thank you once again for coming, and have a safe trip back.